YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my first part of my review of the King-ohger team-up movies. They did a double feature. It wasn't Red Tide and, oh my god, I'm forgetting the UFO one. Death Valley, but it was them versus the King-ohgers. No, themselves, that's a different day. Them versus the King-ohgers and them versus the Donbrothers. Today we're talking about the Donbrothers half, which would be your traditional team-up, as you know, way back in the day. Back in my day, before we crossed over for every anniversary, like, oh, we gotta celebrate the anniversary if someone first ate Doritos on set. The only team-up you got ever, really, even amongst with Ryder. Ryder didn't really have team-ups until Decade started. You did have the Den-O Kiva stuff because Den-O was so popular, but back in the day, you only really had the team-up with the current Sentai and the previous one, which is what this Donbrothers thing is. And I was initially quite happy with the way they announced this, just because I hated stuff like Go Busters 1, where they got shoved to the side for a stupid triple dino crossover. It should have been its own movie. I was worried that was going to happen to the Donbrothers, and I was thankful they decided to separate it and like give Donbrothers the proper attention. I was wondering if they would tie it all together, which they didn't really. And I'm glad they did it, but unfortunately Donbrothers did get a little shortchanged. The King-ohger or the King-ohger movie was 40-ish minutes, and this was like 26 or 35 or something like that. It was shorter. It was like 10-ish minutes shorter, which isn't a huge deal, but definitely from the runtime and just the overall episode, it felt a little bit small. It felt like a little webisode. You know, it didn't feel like one of those traditional movies, and it left me wishing that, honestly, I'll talk about this more when I do the other review in the next couple days, or tomorrow whenever it goes up for the King-ohger one, but I just kind of wish that didn't happen, or that we just got, I just wish we got a proper King-ohger Returns movie. We got pretty much everybody back, and I'll bring that up in the review, but I wish that would have just been a separate thing. There was no need to involve the current series, and I would have rather had just a proper Donbrothers King-ohger crossover. That being said, there was some stuff to enjoy there. There was a little bit of a mixed bag here. In regards to the stuff that I did enjoy, one of my favorite things about crossovers is seeing the characters interact. You know, it's fun sometimes, I guess, to see them fight, although that's on my negatives. Actually, no, it's not fun to see them fight. I never like to see them fight. I think it's stupid, and they always come off as idiots, getting involved in these misunderstandings. It's fun to see them fight together and stuff, and see the action and all that. That's fun, you know. It's not my favorite thing anymore, but that's fun for sure. But the beauty of having these casts together is you get to see these personalities play off of each other, and I think that's more exciting because you can do the shallow suit stuff with anybody. I almost wasn't say any Joe, and then I decided not to. But anyway, any average Joe or beautiful Joe. You can do that shallow stuff with anybody, but when you have the cast there, I like to see them interact. And there's been times when you have series next to each other, or even not next to each other, I'll be like, oh man, it'd be interesting to see these two interact. And so this did have some of those interactions, more in my opinion than the King-ohger one, and ones where they would pair it off in these little like sections that made sense. Like if it was something small, like Kiji brother appreciating the romance between Rackley's and his wife, whose name I forget. I know she's Black Ranger's brother, but I don't remember anyone's names. They're all putties. Anyway. But especially, I think my favorite one was pairing Rita with Oni's sister and the other guy that's not Sonoi and Sononi, who they're all about manga and stuff, and then, of course, Rita being about Moffin. There's a fun little pop culture-y type discussion, you know, about her being into that show, and that was perfect, because that's like a core connection point where you can draw the similarities between the manga and the Moffin and their fandom and all that type of stuff, and they're characters that are also very distinct, and getting to see them interact was unique. I think my favorite line was Oni's sister saying to Rita, "You can't count every minor thing as a spoiler." I'm like, God, thank you for saying that. Like, I honestly get far more annoyed at people whining about spoilers than I do about being spoiled. It's like, just stay offline. It's not that hard. It's not my responsibility to babysit your viewing habits. Anyway, that's a rant for another time. A good rant for another time. I really did like stuff like that. I thought it was really nice, and that was my favorite part of it, was they really thought about the matchups, and it was cool to see the cast interact. You know, it was nice to see the Donbrothers back. It's really funny because I really do like the Donbrothers casts, but I've never really missed them. Like, to be fair, there's not a lot of Toku casts I really miss. Like, most of the time when I finish the Sentai or Rider series, if I never see them again, I'd be fine. It's not like the level of excitement I get when you have something like No Way Home, or if they were to announce like a Dino Thunder Returns movie, I would lose it. But like, I'm like, I don't really care about seeing these guys again. Regardless, what I mean is, like with Kara Major, I really liked Kara Major, even Ava Ranger when I finished it, and I'd be like, I miss seeing them. And like, with Donbrothers, even though I like the cast and the show, I never really missed them all that much, so I wasn't like, oh, can't wait to see them again. But it was nice seeing them again, that being all being said. And they had some fun Donbrothers moments. You know, you got to revisit that world and feel very much in the spirit of it. And it did make me think of a weird comparison to talk about here. But thinking about this and Boom Boonger, about how we were worried about Boom Boonger being so goofy, I was thinking about it, despite the fact that Donbrothers was much more serialized, it was far more goofy and over the top. Don't get me wrong, Boom Boonger is, but it's also incorporated this like slick style to it that I thought was interesting to compare how both series are quirky quirky, but in very different ways. I just happened to be thinking about that when I was watching it. As far as the last other main positive, I really did like some of the last moments you had where you had Don Momotaro and Gira visiting Sonoy, and there's a nice little moment about kind of closure and death. And I thought that was a really nice sentiment. And it was a nice moment to end on. And there were some nice character interactions overall, both in terms of meaningful and funny. Now for the negatives, they wind up fighting for what I largely felt was a misunderstanding, and I just wasn't all that into it. It just seemed really stupid, and I was kind of bored by it. I felt the plot just was kind of forced. Like, it wasn't anything a big deal or anything. It wasn't like it was terrible or anything or very convoluted. It just was like, I wasn't that into the plot, like the reasoning they were fighting or why they were fighting the enemy. There was kind of interesting stuff about like why they met and why they were in like the void or the quiet place or the quiet place. Whatever you want to call it. The further, the in-between, whatever. That was interesting, but I feel like that would have had some more stuff to explore, but it just kind of came down to some shallow stuff. And kind of like also with the Kyoryuger one, like the reasoning for the power-up was just kind of like, oh, hey, look, let's sell toys, which is the truth, but I thought it could have been cooler. But overall, guys, it was fine. I wasn't a fan of the stupid classic Toku misunderstanding stuff, but I might have even enjoyed this one a little more than the Kyoryuger one just because I liked the character interactions more. What did you guys think of this first half? Let me know in the comments as always. Next up will be the review for the Kyoryuger half. That will either come out the day after this or the day after it. So, 2 days. Anyways, guys, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for all my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.